Welcome everybody to Bases and Brews with Ben and Brandon. As you can see tonight, I am running solo. My partner Ben is not feeling so hot. So tonight it's just going to be you and me. This is a weekly podcast where we talk about baseball and brews. We're going to be going over a lot of news tonight. We film this live Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to come in, check it out live. We do it at twitch.tv/bases and brews. And we are going to jump into what I am drinking tonight. I think I drank this a couple weeks ago, but we're drinking some more Paps. Best beer in the world. If you disagree, I will fight you. Not really. I don't want the smoke. But it's a nice light beer. It'll go down easy. It'll help me not get off topic too far. We're going to start the episode with what we typically do, with some hot and cold. The hottest team, we'll just start with our teams because we always do best team, worst team. Giants, still number one. Record with, what are they at? 78-43. Still the best team in baseball. Still don't really understand how, but they've been killing it. They did lose, not last night, but the last game against that they had played. And, you win some, you lose some. Coach, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Oh, I need to change those. But then we're going to actually go to our worst team. This is going to be fun. It is not the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are finally not the worst team in baseball. That honor is now shifting over to the Orioles, who have a record of 38-82. That's brutal. That just hurts to say. But we'll talk about some notable players this week. We got Freddie Freeman, who hits for the cycle for the second time in his career. That is pretty cool for him. And he got his final hit to finish the cycle was a home run, which I think is pretty fitting. I love when that happens. Shohei Ohtani is still on a tear, still leading all of baseball in home runs. He hit his 40th home run on Wednesday, while at the same time pitching 8 innings of 1-run ball with 8 Ks. That's absolutely nutty. Yo, no worries, man. No worries at all. It's going to be a short one. I'm going to just go over some news, and if there's anything that anybody in chat wants to maybe bring up, we can discuss some. We can do a little Q&A since it's just me. But Shohei Ohtani is absolutely nuts. He's actually the fastest player in Angels history, a left-handed batter, to hit 40 home runs. He beat Reggie Jackson, who had 39. So, already making history with the Angels. Not that he wasn't to begin with. Let's see. And then, the big one. This happened, I believe it was on Saturday. Tyler Gilbert of Arizona threw the 8th no-hitter of the season, which is now setting a record because we talked about, I think it was a couple months ago, about how the record was 7, and we were pretty much guaranteeing it was going to happen. Tyler Gilbert had a hell of a game. And it was the first official start of his career. If I'm not mistaken, he got into a game a month ago, but it wasn't a start. Oh, yeah, his dad was awesome. Was awesome watching him. You know what's funny is he's actually from, I guess you could kind of call it my hometown. But he was the 4th pitcher in history to throw a no-hitter in his first start. I don't know if you can expect that coming up, but I mean, that's a hell of a way to start your career. If you've only had a few relief appearances and then get your first start, throw a no-no, especially for the Diamondbacks, who have been abysmal all year. So it's pretty cool. That one was fun. I'm really glad that it was someone that's actually kind of local for me. But that's kind of the hot and cold this week. I didn't have anybody cold because, we only want to talk about the good things. We're going to keep the vibes up a little bit this week. We have some really interesting things. I'm going to start off with a set of ejections that happened this week. The first one is for the Diamondbacks, Caleb Smith. He got pulled. They umpire that checked his glove. The first he had a 2 2/3 inning, I think it was, relief appearance that he was in. And this was the second time they had checked his glove. And the first time everything seemed to be fine, but it was by a different umpire. The second time they said, "Hey, we see something." He is absolutely pissed. I have a couple quotes from him. If I cheated, I would own up to it, but they're, I guess, saying I cheated. And just by doing that, it drags my name through the mud. And he's kind of got a point. And he went on to say, so even when my glove comes back and they say that I wasn't cheating, I mean, it's already out there. People are just going to go with it. They're just dragging my name through the mud. And I understand what he's saying. He's the second pitcher that's officially been, I guess you would say, popped for the cheating like this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. I don't know if I trust anybody that says I would admit that I was cheating. Because if they are cheating, I think a lot of times they don't feel like they're cheating. They're just doing what they know how to do or what they know works. But I don't know. That could be just a different mindset. But he kind of has a point though. Because if it comes back and everything was fine, like the MLB isn't going to put out a statement like, "Hey, he's totally clean." And even if they did, is that going to get national news? Whereas someone getting kicked out of a game is going to get a lot more news. So kind of feel for him. But this ejection, the second ejection I want to talk about, is actually really interesting because Lance Lynn of the White Sox got ejected during a check, but it was not for anything that had to do with the actual check itself. So the umpire was late. I don't know what that means. He said it says he was late, but I don't know if there's like a specific time frame that they need to get over to do the check so the players can get in. But I guess he was having like an issue, so he wanted to get down to the trainer. So he put his glove and hat on the railing, and he went down to talk to his trainer, and the umpire comes over and says, "Hey, I need your belt, and I need to check your belt." So he took his belt off and basically threw it out of the dugout to the umpire, and that's what got him ejected. It wasn't the fact that he was cheating. He was just like, this never would have happened if you were on time. Lance Lynn did. I was like, so he got ejected for the check, but not because the check actually did anything. It's because of his reaction, which I think is a first. I don't think anybody else has got ejected for kind of, I don't really want to say throwing a tantrum, but that's kind of what it was. Because he's like, because I understand his side. Like, he's only got so much time to go see his trainer before he's got to go back out there again. And if he's not cheating, like, it's just kind of a waste of time. So I just thought that was kind of funny, especially because you had the Diamondbacks guy, Caleb Smith, that got popped for it kind of within, I think it actually happened on the same day, but it might have been within a day. Was pulling a lot of these things yesterday, but just funny, interesting stories I saw from baseball this week. There are still a few others, though, that I want to get into. Let's see. Okay, so we'll go this one next with the Yankees. So, Sport, I do kind of wish you were here to talk for this one, because we were like, what the fuck are the Yankees doing at the trade deadline buying players? And let me give you some numbers for the Yankees. The Yankees are 15-4 since the trade deadline. They're actually 23-9 since the All-Star break. That's if my math is good. I actually went and counted their win-losses, and as long as I didn't fuck anything up, that should be where they're at. They're actually leading the AL wild card by one game as the first team. I did not see this coming at the trade deadline. So the Yankees definitely knew something that we didn't. So that's one that I thought was interesting, just kind of seeing how good the Yankees have been, especially kind of with the the talks of, yeah, I don't think anybody was expecting, except for maybe the Yankees, because they did load up. But this whole, what's his name? Luke Voigt. And, oh God, he just got traded over to the Yankees. The first baseman. Rizzo, Anthony Rizzo. The drama that's kind of going between them and the Yankees, I find kind of interesting right now. Yeah, the Padres have been terrible. At this point, I'm almost positive, I'm like 90% sure the Giants are at the very least making the wild card game. But I don't, just because I think the Padres are still in that second spot, and they're like 12 games back right now. So I think the Giants are pretty clear, even if they don't win the division, because the Dodgers could have gone up on the hot and cold list too, because they are killing it right now. I think they're on a 7-game win streak, if memory serves. I don't think they played today, or maybe they haven't played yet. But yeah, they are absolutely on a tear. So even when the Giants are winning and playing well, they're not able to make any ground. They've actually lost some ground because they've lost a couple games. I know, heaven forbid they lose any games, but the Dodgers are just killing it. One of the other stories that was kind of sad but good at the same time this week, Chris Bassett of the A's, borderline, maybe arguable Cy Young potential. Got hit in the face by a 100-mile-an-hour line drive. He had facial fractures that are going to require surgery. I think he's getting that surgery, or he had it today. No, it was I think it was yesterday, because I think they saw him before the game. His vision is going to be okay from what they tested, and the CT came back with no brain issues. So it sucks, and it was pretty vicious, but it looks like he'll be okay, but I don't think he's going to be pitching again for the rest of the year. They're talking about maybe putting him in like a face mask, but I don't know if they could do that. I don't know if it's ever been done, to be honest. Kind of like what you see at basketball. But the good thing is he did get the surgery. It looks like everything's okay. His vision is going to be fine and no brain injuries. So, excuse me. At least that's all good. It just sucks that he was having such a good year, and now is probably not even going to play for the rest of the year. Yeah, I think anybody getting hit in the face or head is like the worst things that can happen in all of baseball. Hello, Jen. How are you doing? Whether it's a batter getting hit, especially by some of these guys these days that are throwing triple digits, it's definitely one of the scariest things you could possibly see, especially when the contact is solid, and he was gushing blood. I didn't see the whole thing, but I didn't want to watch the replay of him actually getting hit. I was totally cool with just like watching him walk off the field, or carted off. Like just like watching him leave the field was enough with how much blood I was seeing in there. I'm like, I don't really want to see that like in a replay. Yeah, I have a bad habit of doing that too, especially when people like break legs and like arms. I'm like, wait, what happened? And then I watch it back and I'm like, nah, I shouldn't have watched that. Especially with like football. Football is where it happens a lot, because I'm like, wait, what? And then you watch the replay back and you're just like, oh man, that poor dude. It definitely hurts. Okay, so now we got some interesting stuff now that we've kind of talked about the games that have happened this week and some of the other stuff. I got some interesting things that I found. One is national news. The other one I haven't heard anybody talk about yet, so we'll start with that one. And that's WWE and MLB are entering a multi-year merch deal where the WWE is going to make championship belts basically for shit. They're going to make championship belts for like the World Series, the All-Star Game, the Home Run Derby. And I think they're going to be doing other apparel, but from what I could find, it mainly was like talking about like the belts, because I guess they had done belts for the Dodgers, and I can't, oh God, for the life of me, I can't remember who won in 2019. But apparently they had made belts for them already. So they kind of are just entering a partnership to make that an actual thing going forward. It's going to launch in 2022, so it's going to launch next year. I would still imagine that like the World Series this year is probably going to get a championship belt since they've done it the last 2 years. Yeah, bro, trust me, I dug deep for this week. I actually took a ton of time yesterday and like looked for some cool ass articles that I thought would be interesting. But this I think is cool. I mean, like, who doesn't want a championship belt? I mean, they've done it for, I think, football for the last year or two. But I honestly didn't even know they had done it for baseball at all. But apparently they did it for the Dodgers and whoever won in 2019. So I think it's cool. I mean, I don't know about anybody that's out there. I was a huge WWF fan before they switched it to WWE. So I think this is kind of a fun collab. I don't know how, I looked and looked, but I could not find how long the deal was for. Everything I could see just said multi-year deal. So I don't know if that's like, 2 years, 5 years, or what that like actually consists of. So now we'll go on to the one that I think is probably the most interesting, in my opinion, of the stuff I found this week. And that is the fact that Topps is going to be replaced by Fanatics as the official licensed card dealer of the MLB. So they've assigned it. I don't know if it's officially signed, but it's pretty much out there everywhere. So I imagine it's actually official at this point. But they've signed with MLB and PA, Players Association, yes, on it, which I think is going to be dope. Well, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's going to be good for collectors in the next year or two. This year and early next year to mid next year. Because this deal is going to take place starting in 2022. So it's going to start at the end of next year. Okay, I'll take a peek at it too. So this is cool. I mean, it sucks that they're being switched, but Fanatics is a huge company. My only concern is a lot of the products that Fanatics currently makes are kind of cheap, which is a little bit worrisome because Topps has been basically the MLB and MLB's like official card maker since 1950. I think what I saw in articles was 52, but I was hearing people talk that 1951 was the first year Topps made cards for the MLB. So it's like 70 years of history that's kind of being tossed out for this new partnership with Fanatics. I mean, don't get me wrong, Fanatics' business like value is 10 times what Topps is. Like when you actually look at it, I think I pulled it up. I think it's 1.6 million Topps is 1.3 billion, and I think it said Fanatics was like 16 billion or something like that. Yo, what up, Wigan? So this is going to be a huge shift to switch over. So we'll see how this goes. Honestly, I wonder what this means for Topps as a card maker. Because I don't know if they have, maybe I should have looked more into that to see if they have more, if they hold more, licenses with other leagues if they like have the NFL license and whatnot. Because if I'm not mistaken, there's only been a few card companies that I can think of. There's Topps, there's Fleer. I don't even know. There was a couple others in like the mid to late 90s, I feel like, that tried to make a splash. I'm not a huge fan on cards. I actually have like tubs of cards between football and baseball and all that stuff. That were my uncle's. My uncle was a huge collector back in the day. He had like original Michael Jordan rookie cards and shit like that before they got stolen from him. It was nuts. So I have like a ton of cards, but I don't think any of them are really worth anything. But I think there's still value in the cards that have already like been made and are circulating, but I don't know how important new cards are. But now that they're shifting from Topps to Fanatic, getting end of year run cards for players is potentially gonna be marketable in the future, but that's projecting 10, 15 years down the road. And that's assuming that they don't go back to Topps and they stick with Fanatics. But in theory, since they're switching, those last run Topps cards could become collectible items at some point. Which, I don't know, that could be interesting. Seeing some last year runs. It'll be interesting to see what Topps, what kind of packs Topps puts out now that they know that their run is going to be basically over. I don't know, there's a lot of potential with that right there. So that's definitely interesting. So sports, the article you linked in here for the thing, I didn't miss this. I actually wanted to save this until we could talk next week about it, because we've literally talked about the idea of having like certain floors and ceilings for the salary caps. So I 100% saw this, but I wanted to wait. But I'll give a quick take on this one. I think it has potential. Yeah, so I'll just do a little quick thing. I won't go too in depth with it because I do want to get into it more. Because I do like the idea, but I don't know if it's feasible for some teams. And I didn't do the homework to actually look at the numbers. So that's why I wasn't really prepared to do it this week. But I think this has potential because I think the gap from the lowest to the highest isn't that drastic. They're talking about potentially. So what I'm talking about here is the MLB proposing having $100 million salary floor, and $180 million luxury tax. And I think the luxury tax was going to go up to, it goes up to 20% once they hit $210 million. So to me, it seems interesting because the 180 to 210 is actually a higher tax rate. So the more you spend, the less you pay in taxes, percentage wise. So there's some interesting math that maybe needs to get done before I want to get too in depth with it. But I think in concept, having a floor and a ceiling that are relatively close together, but it keeps it, because it potentially can keep it competitive enough where teams aren't tanking. Not that I really think tanking is a thing in baseball. Yeah. So I think this has got some potential, but I want to save too many comments for next week's episode when we can actually get back together and really get into some of the numbers and talk about this, because I think we might be in agreement on this, because I think we talked about this maybe 2 months ago. I know this has come up once or twice over the course of the podcast. So there's a little teaser on one of the things we're going to talk about next week. We'll get into. But Yeah, that was kind of all I had for this week. A lot of news, some fun stuff. I just can't believe that the Giants are still number one and that there is a team worse than the Diamondbacks. Like my big surprises looking for stuff this week is I couldn't believe how bad the Orioles were. I thought they were close to the bottom, but I didn't realize that they had actually made it to the bottom. Um, the Yankees and just everything I was watching was Yankees win, Yankees win, Yankees win. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with the Yankees right now? Um, those were my big like surprises this week. The Dodgers need to just like lose a game or two, just maybe make things a little easier. But the Giants are still killing it. They're trying to think of anything else that I saw that would be a good cap on it for this week. Let's look at the wild card standings right now. I can't do that. There it is. So wild card standings right now are the Yankees and Oakland had fallen to the second team in the wild card for the AL. The Yankees have passed them. So I said earlier that they were the first, number one. It looks like they have actually switched since then. I think that happened in today's game. So it's Yankees and Oakland, and who would they play? They would play the top team, which would be Tampa Bay. Ooh, that could be a fun series for that first round. Let's see. And it's even with how bad the Padres have been, they're still in that second wild card slot. So that means the National League West is still gonna be at top. I mean, Cincinnati's only one game back from San Diego, so I don't know. Maybe they keep losing and fully fall off. But I don't know if I see that. I think they actually start winning a few. I just can't believe that they're barely. I mean, I guess they're a little over 500. They're like 10 games over 500, but the fact that they're even close to 500 is an utter shock. Although it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to end up being Dodgers, San Francisco for that first series again for the National League. Well, yeah, I still wouldn't want to play the Padres in the playoffs either. They've got too much potential. Right now, they're not playing to like their potential and what ability they actually have. Because if they were, they wouldn't be where they're at. They would be, I think they'd be number 2. But the Dodgers are coming on strong. The Dodgers have like figured it out. In their last 10, they're 9-1. And I don't think they've played today. So if they win today, I think they actually go to 10-0 in their last 10. No, they're on a 7-win streak, so they'd be at 8. That's insane. The Giants are 8-2 in their last 10. Division leaders right now for the National League, San Francisco. For the West, the Central is Milwaukee, who is, I don't think either one of us predicted Milwaukee to be as good as they are this year. Maybe we did. I can't remember that far back. That was months ago. But they are killing it. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Atlanta has been on fire at 9-1 in their last 10. So teams are getting hot right now, which is kind of weird. Usually these are like what's that like cliche thing they always say? It's the dog days of August or whatever. Like the mid to the end of this month is supposed to be like the hardest part of the season. All right, let's check the AL. So East is Tampa Bay. They're winning that division. Houston is winning the West with the A's on their heels. I think the A's are 2 games back. Chicago is winning the Central. So that, like I said, that leaves the Yankees and Oakland in the wild card. I think, I hope the A's can get their division, because then it would mean, although then again, I don't know if they want that matchup in the first round, because that would put them against Chicago in the first round. Right? Yeah, I don't think they would want that smoke, because Chicago is fucking real good right now. Although in their last 10, they haven't played super well. They're 5-5. Houston's 5-5. That's how Oakland has been able to catch up. Because although Oakland's 5-5 in their last 10 too, maybe they're just winning when Houston's losing. These divisions are very close in some of these cases. AL East isn't close. Oh man, I guess Central isn't. I thought they were. The only one that's close for the AL is the West, and that one's 2.5 games. Let's see. Let's look at the NL. Nope, that's a 5-game. The Central is 1, 2, 3, all separated by 3.5. Milwaukee, Cincinnati, and St. Louis. Let's see. And the West is a two horse race between the Dodgers and the Giants right now. It's crazy to me that the Diamondbacks were so bad for so long that they are 37.5 games back. Although you do see some pretty crazy separation in the NL Central, with Pittsburgh being, I was just looking, 31.5 back. So maybe that's not super bad. Baltimore being the worst team in baseball is still less games back than either of the first two. Yeah. See, didn't we talk about, wasn't he on both of our overrated lists? I just didn't know what they were really going to do with him. And I didn't think he was that good to be like worthy of it to begin with. So that doesn't really surprise me too much, to be honest. That's not something that I'm really all that surprised about. It just sucks for the Mets, because I bet you the Mets would be just fine if Jacob deGrom didn't get basically shut down for the year. I think the last percentages I saw were like 99.9% that he was not coming back, even if they made the playoffs. So that's going to be definitely interesting to see where they end up. Because right now, where are they at right now? Oh, no, not scores, standings. Let's look where the Mets. Let's find the Mets. The Mets are third in that division. They're 6 games back. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Atlanta has just been on a tear to shoot up to the top of that division. Because literally it's the last 10 games that has got them where they're at, which is crazy. It just shows you what one good run can do you, especially if you're within, a handful of games, anything I would say under 4 or 5. Because a 9-1 run will definitely get you a few games, especially when the teams that you're trying to catch are going, 4-6 and 3-7. I mean, I just want to know what's going on with Philly, because they had a series where they hit like 120 something and just completely shit the bed. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They are just absolutely collapsing offensively. Yeah, it would be a shit show if they didn't even make the playoffs, but at the same time, it's the Mets. Like, maybe ownership and the player groups and stuff would be surprised, but I mean, as a casual baseball fan, the Mets kind of just, this feels common. This just feels like kind of par, not par for the course, but pretty damn close. I feel like the Mets, even when they have good teams, people get hurt, then they implode, and it just kind of is what it is. Which, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily right, but you're not wrong. They did spend a ton this offseason. Did they? I don't know if they spent as much as as the Padres, because the Padres spent a ton of money this offseason. The fact that the Padres are where they're at is a complete and utter failure, in my opinion. Like, even if they make the playoffs, even if they beat the Dodgers for in the wild card game, I still would consider this season a complete failure. I see that the Detroit-Toronto game is tied 1-1. I'm just doing my scored on a wild pitch. Still hasn't got home run number 500, Miguel Cabrera. Although Vlad finally broke his 8 or 9 game home run list streak. So he finally got his 36th, I think is what he's at. Check real quick. I think he's at 36. No, let me click. No. It says he's got 35. I think that was 36. I don't think this is updated yet for his home run today. Right now, I think this is going to be something that's going to be fun to talk about in the next couple weeks. But I think at least the MVP for the American League is pretty much locked up already. And I don't think there's going to be any argument whether me or you agree with it or not. I think the American League All-Star or American League MVP is already, that's cinched up and tied up by Shohei Ohtani. The NL, though, I think there's a few people that I wouldn't mind seeing. I wouldn't mind seeing Vlad because he is absolutely going insane this year. He's hitting killer average. I think he's at 312, 315 Vlad would be American League, huh? Shit. So he can't even see that. It sucks for him, but I mean, Shohei's got that one. I always forget that they are American League. I was literally just looking at it too. But I think that from the Giants, I think Brandon Crawford has slowly made a case for at least being looked at for MVP this year with the year he's having. After the last few games, to add to where he's been so far, it's pretty nuts. I think he's hitting 304 with 21 home runs. I'm expecting him to get at the very least 25, maybe even close to 30. I don't know if he's going to get to 30, but it wouldn't surprise me if he gets to 28. And I think his on-base percentage is nutty too. Let me pull him up real quick. Oh no, I don't want to be here. No, I don't want to be there. Don't want to be there either. Stats. Brandon Crawford. So this year, he is hitting 300 even with 70 RBIs. This hasn't updated completely because he's at over 20 home runs. So this hasn't even updated fully yet. All right, I'm going to pull him up. I'm going to make my case for Brandon Crawford right now. which is funny because he actually, I think this last week just signed a 2-year extension with the Giants, and I'm going into this year, I would have said I don't want him. I don't want to sign him again. I want to look at I don't even want to look at him. I want to see what's on the market. But with the year, he's literally having a career year at age 34. I would hope that our coach would get coach of the year this year. I would hope, because I mean, it's absolutely insane where the Giants are with the team that they have. I mean, they added Chris Bryant, which definitely adds more panache, more name recognition to the team. But he's only been there, 3 weeks? I mean, granted, he's had a hell of a 3 weeks, but they were the best team in baseball when they got him, and they've continued to be the best team in baseball since they've gotten him. And I don't think anybody even remotely had them making the playoffs. I think the over-under for them was like 72 or something like that. So I don't know. Like they're well over the over-unders already. So I would imagine even if they don't like have a elongated run in the playoffs, he should still get it. I should have. But see, you always think back. The people that this always makes me wonder or understand why people do it every year. Like, I've known people to bet on their team, not big, just $100 or something, every single year. And almost every single year, you're going to be wrong and you're going to lose your money. But there's going to be that time that you're going to have a ticket that's like a 300 to 1 or 200 to 1, and you're going to make all your money back because your team just happened to be good, like this year for the Giants. Like, anybody smart enough to bet on the Giants winning this year, if they somehow miraculously actually pulled a World Series off, I'm sure would be winning tens of thousands of dollars depending on what they bet. Depending, 100 on the Giants winning that division. Yeah, like that wouldn't surprise me if like someone bet like 100 or $200 or something nothing, not crazy, but not exactly like, a $10 bet. It wouldn't surprise me if they were winning, 10, 15, 20 grand. But this has him at 19 too. Maybe Crawford isn't at 20. I was pretty sure he was at 20 or 21 already. But Baseball Reference is usually pretty good. And they have him at hitting 300 with 19 home runs, 70 RBIs, and 9 stolen bases. To put that in perspective, he's got 41 stolen bases for his career. And 9 of those have been this year. He's a career 253 hitter, and he's hitting 300. Like, the year he is having this year is absolutely bananas, especially for him. Do I think he's gonna like win the MVP? No, he'd have to do something even like way more crazy, but he'd have to go on like a tear where he hits like 5 or 6 home runs or something like that to get like the recognition as some of the other names in the National League. But I wouldn't mind seeing him at least mentioned in the conversation. Let's see. Anything else? Nothing else that I can see. Let's see if there's any other MLB news. Maybe see if there's anything else that broke since we started. What is this? Apparently, Giannis... I cannot ever say his last name, so I'm not going to try and butcher it. From the Bucks, purchased stake in the Milwaukee Brewers. That man is going to be a legend there. Like, absolute legend in Milwaukee by the time he is done. Hell, he could probably literally just go away and own part of the baseball team and still be a legend at this point because of winning the championship this last year. So, all right. I think I'm going to end the podcast there, guys. We've been going for about 45 minutes, which is actually much longer than I had anticipated. I figured we wouldn't be much over 25, 30 minutes. But I appreciate everyone for coming out and hanging. We are going to send this one out with thanks, guys. Just thanks. No, but thanks everyone for listening, watching. If you're watching twitch.tv/Bases and Brews, you're watching us live. We appreciate you. Go check out our YouTube. We have all of our past broadcasts on there. If you want to catch any of our other top 10s, we had a mid-season kind of recap. We had our preseason guesses, which we'll be rehashing here pretty soon. All of it's on YouTube. Also, if you want to listen on podcast form, we're pretty much on every site except for Apple Podcast. I need to figure out why we're not getting on there. But we do record this live, me and my partner, every Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. After the show, we typically do a little banter back and forth for post-show. So if you want to catch that, make sure you drop in and watch us live. Tonight, I'm not going to do that because it would just be me rambling on and on and on. So everyone have a great week, and we'll catch you next week. So we didn't do our lists of our all-time favorite players, not best players, but our favorite players, our follow-up to our Field of Dreams teams. We are going to probably be doing that episode next week. So tune in if you want to know who just our favorite players that we've watched and would like to have on our basic starting 9. Have a good one, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Bases and Brews.